here are some of my answers to your question about what I think about how people or sociolinguists communicate, disseminate, or circulate
So when
their
I think
research.
about the question of how sociolinguists can communicate or disseminate their research.
So to answer the question, what ways can you think of that people communicate and disseminate their research?
Circulating, and disseminating.
I think the questions you ask on how we communicate, circulate and disseminate our research are really important ones.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is how I can communicate my research back to the people I worked with, back to my participants, back to the institution that I have worked with.
Personally felt that research, particularly social research, has to leave the ivory tower and has to be made more accessible to the lay.
How do we connect
concerns.
With the real world, and how we generate some impact, how we translate what we like the practices we research, and how we translate the social critique we do.
Apart from the obvious, which is the publication of
formal way,
articles in academic journals.
By publication in journals, or even attending conferences and presenting papers, which are more formal. But I'm afraid these are becoming more and more difficult and expensive.
When we talk about dissemination beyond the academy, it's not only to members of the public outside of academia, it's also to the people we worked with, the people who let us into their spaces and shared with us. And sharing our findings with them is not always an easy task. There may be disagreement, there may be contestation
raising
over
questions about quality, depth and expertise which need to be addressed.
This year everyone has got on board of technology, and we have all turned to podcasts in order to generate new conversations.
We could publicize our research also through
the development
social media.
of a blog, which is another way of for our findings to reach to wider audiences
and to be heard in as many platforms as possible.
To Twitter, Instagram, and open access prints and so on.
Because the language used in a blog is not the same as the language used in a journal.
A huge hurdle for many of us who think in a language other than English is speaking and writing to academic standards in English. A lot of good research is lost in translation.
Academics and practitioners can come together, share their voices, share their ideas, and even develop a set of good practices that others can follow.
Who are actually involved in the research, or maybe people about whom the research is.
Speak out of our institutional walls, and that we contribute to, broader public debates on what our research is about and what our views are about, like on things that are going on
when we talk about
in society.
Dissemination beyond the academy. It's not only to members of the public outside of academia, it's also to the people we worked with, the people who let us into their spaces and shared with us. And sharing our findings with them is not always an easy task.
I think I've covered
what
I wanted to say.
Here are some
of my answers to your question.
And I don't have
about
any solutions, but these are my...
Communicating, circulating and disseminating.
How do we communicate, circulate and disseminate our research? And how is this inflected by epistemological, ontological and Gnostic assumptions?
How are we positioned to answer questions by the methods we employ, by our trajectories, by our relationship with our research participants, and by our institutional roles?
What space do we make for the political, for critique, and for social justice? How integral are these to our research?
At a time when the university sector is undergoing our backdoor privatisation, how we communicate our research is of consequence. When knowledge is increasingly individualised and privatised, placed behind paywalls and understood only in relation to the ref, how do we move beyond the ivory tower?
How do we bring into focus our spheres of interest and influence?
Meditating on these themes, we invite you to share your thoughts on communicating research at the next CLSS event, open to all those interested in language and society, working in, from and beyond London.
Join us to think collectively in a series of talking circles. We will share thoughts, ideas, feelings, experiences and knowledge as we identify gaps and collectively explore solutions.
Make yourself a drink, find a comfortable corner and come and meditate on how we as sociolinguists communicate our research and how we as sociolinguists want to shape our field in this respect.